Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we're looking at the 2026 governor's map and going through what I consider to be the Democrats' best case scenario for the 2026 midterms. Now, as I've done in some past videos on the House and Senate side of things, currently President Trump is polling at near his lowest for his second term at this current point in time, polling at negative 12.7%, negative 12.7, roughly the lowest he's had thus far. And on the generic congressional ballot, it's not looking much better for Republicans either, as Democrats are currently leading over the Republicans by roughly 4.8%. So currently the Democrats and Republicans look like the Democrats are going strong here. For today's video, I'm going over the governor's map from 2026, which governor's elections usually are more volatile and willing to vote for a party that does not usually win the president or Senate elections in the state. For instance, you'll almost never see a Republican win the presidential election in Illinois, but a governor's race went red in 2014, or Vermont, for instance, which has a Republican governor, but will never vote red at the presidential level. You could also look at Kansas, where the current governor is a Democrat, even though it will never vote Democratic at the presidential level, etc. So ultimately, we're going to break down this video and what I think the best case scenario for the Democrats is. Starting with the states that are considered safe for the Democrats: Oregon and California and Hawaii. 3 safe Democratic states there, no real surprise. Colorado, I expect, will be safe in the Democrats' best case scenario. New Mexico, though Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham is term limited, in the Democrats' best case, it will probably go safe for the Democrats. Illinois with J.B. Pritzker could certainly be a safe state, and I expect that it will be. Westmore could certainly be safe. In the Democrats' best case scenario, Josh Shapiro came very close to winning by more than 15 points in 2022, and I think in the best case scenario, it's certainly possible. New York, Elise Stefanik versus Kathy Hochul, I think will be under 15 points. But in the Democrats' best case scenario, New York, I think will certainly go by over 15 points. Connecticut will be safe Democratic, as well as Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Now, Vermont is interesting because there is a Republican governor in Phil Scott, a liberal Republican governor, and if he runs again, I fully expect he will win re-election by a safe margin. But in the Democrats' best case scenario, it would probably involve Phil Scott not running for re-election and making this a solid Democratic flip. So I think Phil Scott will, at this point, we don't know if he's going to run for re-election or not, but for the Democrats' best case scenario, we'll put Vermont in safe Democrat for now. That puts Democrats up at 13. And the next, we have some states also that are going to be safe for the Republicans, even in the Democrats' best case scenario. Idaho will be safe, as well as Wyoming. South Dakota, Nebraska is likely going to be safe as well. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina in all likelihood will be safe. It could potentially get more competitive, but will still probably be safe when everything is said and done. And that's pretty much it for the safe Republican governor's races. Now onto the states that are considered likely, in between a 5 and 15 point margin of victory. Safe is also 15 points or more. I just want to preface that. The first one would be the state of Minnesota with Governor Tim Walz. I think him winning between 5 and 15 points is certainly likely, as that happened last time around as well. He won by a likely margin. I just think Minnesota is a little too competitive of a state to break 15%, even with a Democrat best case scenario, but Minnesota, I think, starts out as likely Democratic. I also think the state of Maine will also start out as likely for the Democrats as well in the Democrats' best case scenario. From there isn't really any other state that I think could 100% be likely Democratic, but 2 states that are toss-ups in Michigan and Wisconsin on my current governor prediction map. I think both of them very well could be likely Democratic seats. These are going to be states that go for Democratic by more than 5 points. If everything broke the Democrats' way, I think it's possible that these could break 5 points, especially Michigan, more so than Wisconsin. But I think it is possible to see them potentially being likely Democratic states. So that would bring the Democrats up to 17. Now, there are still a handful of governor's races out there. I think Republicans would still win by a likely Republican margin. The first being Byron Donalds in Florida. I think he's going to win the Republican primary and win this governor's race by a likely margin. In Texas, the Senate race could be very close, but I think Greg Abbott, the Republican governor, is going to win by at least 5 points and making it a likely Republican win. Now for the state of New Hampshire with Kelly Ayotte, the Republican governor, she's quite popular and is also more of a similar Republican to, say, former Governor Chris Sununu, someone who is not exactly a moderate, but not exactly a pro-Trump Republican either, sort of in between, striking a fine line there, the type of Republican that appeals to local New Hampshire voters. And I think she'd still win re-election by at least 5 points in 2026. Now, that's pretty much going to be it for all the states that I would consider 5 points or more. Now, in the Democrats' best case scenario, again to the states that could be likely, or that could be lean Democrat and lean Republican. Now, even though the Democrats have the seat right now, I still think more likely than not, we're going to see the Republicans win the state of Kansas and win it back by a lean margin of 1 to 5 points. The Democrat governor, Laura Kelly, has endorsed, I believe, a Democratic candidate and would love to hold on to the state of Kansas in the governor's map. I just think that Kansas is such a red state, and without Kelly running, it's going to be hard for the Democrats to retain in that state. But one area that I think Democrats certainly could retain is the state of Arizona, where Democrat Katie Hobbs, the governor, is running for re-election, and it's going to be a very close race between her and Andy Biggs or Karen Taylor Robson. But seeing as most polls already have Hobbs leading over Biggs and Robson, I think seeing her win re-election by 1 to 5 points is certainly very much attainable in the Democrats' best case scenario. The next pickup opportunity, I would say, would be the state of Georgia, which is currently held by Republican Governor Brian Kemp. And with Kemp being term limited, this being an open race, we also have the Senate race with Jon Ossoff versus the Republican candidates. Right now, Ossoff is leading over all the Republican candidates, the major ones running. So if that were to have a down ballot effect as well, I think we're going to see Georgia in the Democrats' best case scenario win this race, flipping it from red to blue and winning it by roughly 1 to 5 points. A runoff election may be required, but I think we could certainly see Georgia ultimately go blue when everything is said and done. Now we have the state of Nevada. Nevada, this is going to be Republican Joe Lombardo facing off against Attorney General Aaron Ford. Now, my most recent election prediction, I did have Lombardo defeating Ford in this race, but in the Democrats' best case scenario, I think it is very possible we could see Nevada go lean for the Democrats, which is in between a 1 and 5 point victory. It wouldn't be too shocking, as the last two governor elections in the state both went for the lean category. In 2022, going lean Republican for Joe Lombardo, and back in 2018, going lean Democrat for Steve Sisolak. So certainly Nevada is a state to watch for as a lean potential win. Now we come down to 3 states that I think are going to be somewhere between lean and tilt. Because in the Democrats' best case scenario, are Democrats going to be able to win Alaska, Iowa, or Ohio? Alaska is really dependent on if Mary Peltola decides to run. If Peltola decides to run for this race and not run for the Senate race, I would put Alaska in the Democrats' best case scenario as tilt Democrat, which is right around a 1 point win. Now, if Peltola does not decide to run, which the indications are that she's, I believe, leaning towards running for Senate more so than governor, if she decides to do that, I do think Alaska will still ultimately elect a Republican governor by a lean category. But Alaska has seen Democrat and independent governors before, so if Peltola decides to run, I think we certainly could see Alaska go blue. So for the sake of this video and the overall excitement of this video, we're going to put Alaska in the tilt Democratic column. Now, Ohio. Ohio's interesting because Vivek Ramaswamy will be facing off against either Amy Acton or Tim Ryan, and I think either one would be a very competitive matchup versus Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, Ohio, even in the Democrats' best case scenario, is still a pretty red state. Now, at the Senate level, Sherrod Brown, the former U.S. Senator, is running. At the governor level, things are going to be a little bit more tricky, but certainly Vivek Ramaswamy can turn a lot of voters off. But so much so that I think Ohio still ultimately remains in the red category, in the Republican category. It would narrowly go to the GOP, even in the Democrats' best case scenario. Now, Iowa, I think, could be an interesting situation, as Randy Feenstra, the Republican, I think is pretty likely to win the Iowa governor's race, but Rob Sand, the Democratic candidate, the only currently statewide elected Democrat, is also a very formidable candidate in his own right, which makes this race very competitive. Iowa's been a very red trending state in recent years, and I have a hard time imagining that changing in 2026. But in the Democrats' absolute best case scenario where everything goes their way, kind of like in 2014 when the Republicans were winning in Massachusetts and Illinois and Maryland, I think we very well could see Iowa voting Democratic in 2026 for Rob Sand for governor, and what would essentially be a shocking wake-up call to the GOP. So in the Democrats' best case scenario on the governor map, I have the Democrats winning 22 governor's races to the Republicans' 14, with a very close call being narrowly in the Republican category in Ohio, but certainly if you want to make the argument for Ohio being blue, you probably could as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you did, leave a comment below, tell me your thoughts. Make sure to check out my also recent videos that were the Senate and House versions of the Democrats' best case scenario. And I do have the Republican best case scenario videos for House, Senate, and Governor coming out over the next few days as well that I think you're going to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in a future video.